Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Darius, aka DMC, but you all know that from the Just Drawz podcast. So let's get into why I'm really here. We just released an episode that was strictly about me. And if you haven't seen that episode, make sure that you go and watch it. I mean, what you waiting for? All right. Don't you want to get to know a little bit about me? I hope so. But it's on, of course, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Podcast as well. So, at the cold opening of that episode, if you notice, I talked about how this was the first time that I was going to be recording solo and that I was going to probably be doing the editing for the episode. So, if the episode looked a little wonky, just blame it on me being a first time. After the episode aired, I noticed that some of the things that I had done in the editing process, I didn't see in the final cut. I couldn't understand what was going on. What I realized was all of the editing that I had done for the episode, I never sent it to Jeff, who normally does the editing for all our stuff anyway. I forgot to send him my original edit for the episode. And so he went through and did an edit like he normally would do. What I wanted to do was I wanted to share with you what I actually did in terms of editing. So for Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Podcast, we're going to re-release that episode. And I guess it's just going to be a DMC cut. I'm not really sure what we're going to label it. But for those of you who are watching it or have watched it on YouTube, thank you. And it's still going to be housed on YouTube. So you're not going to get to see the DMC cut on YouTube. But again, if you listen to us on Spotify or watch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Podcasts, there will be an additional episode that will show up there with my original cuts. Hopefully you'll take a look, a listen to what that is. It's the same content, same everything, but some of the visual things that are going on the episode are just a little bit different. So maybe take a look at that. Let me know what you think. Let me know how well I did. But again, thank you for rocking with us. And I hope you enjoy this DMC cut of my Get to Know Me episode. I'll let y'all soon. Peace. What's good, fam? And welcome to Just Drawz. This is a show hosted by two Black gay men who are smart, sometimes funny, and not afraid to say the quiet parts out loud.
We talk life, love, sex, culture, mental health, politics, pop culture,
and everything in between. So whether you're here to laugh, learn, heal, or just feel seen,
you're in the right place.
All right, y'all, what's good? It's a brand new year. We made it to 2026. So happy new year, by the way. So before the Just Drawz podcast, me and Jeff get into all the wild convos and the deep dives that we're going to do in this, our season 4, I figured I would give you a closer look at half of the duo behind the mic. You know, a lot of you already know a lot about me. And if you've been rocking with us for a while, you definitely have heard a lot of things. So I wanted really to get even more vulnerable with you to let you know more about who I am, more about my family, more about what I love, how I chill, and really some questions that y'all may have for me. So pull up, let's catch a vibe. Also, as we always say, let's get into it. So who am I? Who am I? So if I had to describe myself in 3 words, I'd say that I was intentional, grounded, and magnetic. So I'm going to explain that in a minute. All right. I'm intentional about everything I do, from how I teach to how I show up for people to how I create. I just don't move to be in motion. That's the thing. There's always a purpose behind every step that I take. And those purposes behind the steps that I take keep me grounded. I really don't forget where I come from or what shaped me. And as a Black gay man in this world, and let me be straight up with you, like it's still kind of hard to say the word gay, and I'm gonna talk about it in just a little bit, but it really taught me to stand firm in who I am, not to shrink, not to apologize, and to own my own space. So it's hard to say the word gay, as I said earlier, because there's a lot of pride that I kind of have in all of the years that people thought that I was gay and I really had no attraction to guys. But all of my life, or just about all of my life, people have always thought that. They've always said, oh, well, he's gay, he's gay, he's gay. And I'm like, I don't know where people are getting this from, because I don't have these desires. I don't have these thoughts. I don't have these urges to be with other guys. And when I finally was able to embrace certain feelings that I had, that I kind of really brushed off as other things, or brushed off as just me feeling a way about a specific situation, and I was able to really sit in what it was, it really like messed with my mind. It was like, damn, these people were right all along, and now I got to go back and eat some crow, as people say. And that wasn't pleasant for a while, but I'm a little bit better now with how I deal with it, how I don't deal with it, all of those things. So it's definitely a little bit better in that. So it is kind of hard to say. So throughout this, you might hear me kind of struggle a little bit with saying that I know what I am, but I just don't always, again, try to put it out on Front Street like that. And so the third thing I like to say that I'm magnetic, because people tend to feel my energy even before I speak. I really don't do that for attention. And it's just something that comes, I think, when you walk in, as clichéic as it is, but when you walk in your truth, when you walk in your purpose, and when you walk kind of unapologetically about how you show up, or how you, in the ways that you show up. What drives me day to day is kind of cliche, but it's simply peace. It's not just peace of mind, but peace in my health, peace in my finances, my relationship with others, my mental state, all of that. One of the things that I feel like, honestly, I was put on this earth to do is to function as a source of calm and safety for others. As long as I can remember, I've never been like overly excitable. I've never been the guy that's just like jumping up in the air and kicking my heels together. I love what you do, Toyota shit. I haven't been that, but um, I've always been calm like this. I've always kind of had a level of calm to me, and a level of peace, I guess you could say. I had someone tell me a while ago, and I actually just told him this just recently, and it was one of the greatest compliments that I've ever received from someone. And he told me that when he was with me, that he felt comfortable, but most importantly, he felt safe. And it was almost like he was able to like exhale and know that nothing out of the ordinary was going to happen to him, or that I didn't have some sort of like ulterior motive. And that's continued to resonate with me, and that helped me realize that I'm not just here to make people laugh or lend money, but I have a higher calling. And that while I might not answer that call for money, because that's not the higher calling I'm talking about, I'm definitely up to answer that higher calling. My identity, as I mentioned, sometimes it's hard to say, but as a Black gay man, has shaped how open I am to inviting people to be the audience in what I call the theater of my life. I've learned that everyone, excuse me, who you encounter doesn't mean you any good, or doesn't always mean you good. Sometimes even your own people don't feel that way, or they don't mean you good. All that term, that, or the phrase, or the idiom, I guess you could say, all skin folk ain't kin folk. It's battle tested me, so that when people walk away from me for whatever reason that may be, I've gotten okay with that. And I've talked about that in a previous episode, in a previous solo episode, matter of fact. Now, I still do confront why, and will want some sort of real and true answer, but that answer doesn't define who I am or how I move, especially now. I appreciate God blessing me to be both Black and gay, because I don't think I would have learned some of the lessons that I have about life if I wasn't. I think people perceive me as boring, mean, standoffish sometimes, and even dry. But in all actuality, I am every piece of one of those things. But real talk, though, I don't see myself as boring per se. I just have different tastes. And I'm not mean, but I am blunt, I am confrontational, and I am straight to the point. I'm not only standoffish, or I'm only standoffish, I should say, because I can discern something in you that I may need to be leery of. Uh, and sometimes if you feel that sort of standoffishness, then I'm picking up something. By the way, I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I see colored auras around people, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And I'm only dry because my mind really is always analyzing and reporting out on information. Years ago, one of my younger brothers mentioned to me that my mind is like a computer. And he could tell that when I was processing information, when my mind was reporting out on info as it processed, and even when I was deleting unnecessary data. I had never thought about it like that, but once he said it, I was like, that's it. That's really it. Now I really find that my brain does do that. When I'm alone at the crib, and sometimes I don't have anything on the TV, no music, nothing. I'm just kind of listening to my brain report out on problems I've been thinking about, replaying old conversations that help me understand people better, and even reflecting on how I've grown over the years. I say all the time that I really do love the person I have become at my core. And I even say to myself, and I've said to myself before, that if I was who I am now when I was younger, I probably wouldn't have been friends with myself. When I was younger, I was a people pleaser. I wanted to be accepted so bad. And I wanted to look like all the guys in my neighborhood who were popular and really had it, as we used to say, going on, had it going on. Or so I thought. I'm sure that some of them probably look like hard times now. No shade to them, but maybe just a little bit of shade. So on to my background. I grew up in the South, in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was born in the 70s, but I grew up in the 80s. And this was such a different time than it is now. This was a time when it wasn't as fucking hot as it is now during the summer. And you could actually ride in the car. I don't know if y'all remember this. Those of you that are a little bit older, a little bit more seasoned, or of a particular age, you could ride in the car with your windows down. You could go to the store and leave your windows down in the car, and your whole car and the contents inside would still be there when you came out. I grew up in a bit of the hood. Where I originally grew up has morphed and gentrified into what is called NoDa. So if anybody's from the Charlotte area and you're familiar with NoDa, that's kind of the area that I grew up in. But at the time, we just knew it as North Charlotte. And being in a black neighborhood definitely gave me a sense of belonging. It really did. It also really taught me to value community. My grandmother and my great grandmother, whom I really kind of grew up with, their neighbors all knew each other. Everyone knew that I was Miss Johnson's grandson or Miss Eunice's great grandson, and I knew who they were too. While the neighborhood wasn't the safest, I still had a sense of comfort because people actually seemed to care. And that's something that we have really lost now. So I've taken that with me into adulthood, and I try to treat others with respect and with no malice or no motive. Speaking of growing up, I grew up in a house with my grandmother, my great grandmother, and my mom. So I was the only male in the immediate household. So here's a little piece of tea for you or whatever. My nickname is Man. All right. And you see how creative my mom was. There are still people in my family who will call me that, but most of them don't. So listeners out there, don't get any ideas. I didn't have a male role model other than my Uncle Harvey, rest in power, for the first 7 years of my life. My biological father wasn't around, but I knew who he was, and I got to engage with his mother, my grandmother, and sisters every Sunday because we all went to the same church. And even though he kind of wasn't in my life, I never looked at them any different because they loved me unconditionally. I was their Darius, and I loved to be loved on. My mom eventually got married to my stepdad, and then I found it kind of weird to have like male energy in the house, because me being the only male in the house, like it was like, okay, this is I'm the one, I'm the guy in the house, I'm the one that doesn't have to worry about putting the toilet seat down and stuff like that. So it was kind of weird those first few years after they got married and we moved in together. My stepdad, or my pop, sometimes I call him, was diametrically different than me. He was a guy's guy. He smoked, he drank, he told and laughed at overly sexualized jokes. And it was difficult for me to embrace that initially. And it had nothing to do with like my sexuality or anything like that. Because again, I wasn't thinking in that vein. I wasn't thinking about dating or dating guys, definitely at that point. But it was just, I hadn't experienced that because again, I grew up in a house with all women. And so outside of smoking, drinking, telling overly sexualized jokes and laughing at them and stuff like that, he was a provider though. He worked hard and he was super responsible. I was kind of some of those things too. I was definitely responsible and I did work hard as far as school and stuff like that. But it was really good to see a demonstration of it in an older male figure. My biological father and I reconnected much, much later in my 20s. And now I'm really blessed to have both of them around to help me navigate this thing called manhood. I think my great grandmother, though, played the biggest role in shaping who I am now. My grandmother and mom definitely had a hand in it, but before my grandmother retired, she used to work every day. I spent most of my days with Mama. That's my great grandmother, by the way. So, all my family that might be watching this, y'all know Mama. She cooked me breakfast, lunch, and sometimes dinner if my grandmother didn't do it. She let me watch all the cartoons I wanted, even if that meant that she couldn't watch her stories. So that's probably why I'm such a cartoon head now, because I watched everything. And anytime I wanted to watch something, I just had to flash those eyes and I could watch it. But the other good thing about my great grandmother is she really didn't treat me like a child. Sure, I did some dumb shit. We all do. But I had more fun memories with her than I can remember bad ones. Watching her watch me eat while smiling, sitting at the table, falling asleep in her chair right outside of the kitchen, between the kitchen and like the bathroom. Uh, and laughing when she actually did pay attention to something, some cartoon I was watching on TV for were things that I know I will pass down if I ever get the opportunity to be a bonus dad or to have my own children. My upbringing taught me about love, but it also taught me about the value of transparency. My immediate family wasn't and still isn't in a lot of ways transparent. Just keeping it a buck. There were secrets, things I never knew, things that would have been nice to know in an effort to build more of a relationship with them, all of those things. But they came from a different time. Like my parents and grandparents and all that came from a different time. What it felt like was, and it was super weird, was they wanted you to be their friend and tell them everything, but then like the door was locked on their side. So they could see everything out with you and wanted you to be open and honest, but the door's locked. And so, in the few relationships that I've been in, I've had to deal with guys specifically doing some of the same things that I saw growing up. And I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt that it triggers me a bit. And what's interesting is like now that I'm kind of talking about it, I'm understanding that that's one of the things that does bother me. And it's probably the first time that I've ever said that out loud that those things trigger me. So look at y'all being therapists for me. But okay, I'm going to jump off of that before I go deeper than I want to at that point. But I've ultimately learned that love is open, it's honest, and it's true. And it doesn't really matter if that love is like grimy or gutter or gritty, filled with pain, or if it's less than perfect. I mean, it's love. It's not supposed to be perfect. Some of the things that make me light up are music, community, and rest or sleep. So those things matter to me for different reasons. And of course, I'm gonna break them down for you, all right? Because that's what I do. Music like makes me light up because I've always had it around the house. Most, if not all, of my family is musically inclined. My biological father sings and plays guitar. All of my siblings sing, and some of them play instruments as well. Now, I can sing, and no, I will not sing you a little something. If you happen to be in the car with me and songs come on, you'll get to hear it then. But rarely will you hear me sing anything out anywhere or just like jump on a mic and start singing. I'm not going to do that. And I can play an instrument. So music reminds me of like simpler times and good memories. So in terms of community lights me up for really much of what I mentioned earlier about when people actually gave a damn about each other. And it didn't have to be in like this really overexerted sort of way, but just speaking to people, like the simple act of speaking to people and actually having a conversation and talking to somebody with like a modicum of respect, like especially for my black people. My black people, like we don't do that. We've gotten so far away from even just speaking to people and conversing with people and checking on people that sometimes it hurts to see that we can't even correct each other in certain instances without somebody getting offended, um, even if the correction is actually for our good. That's difficult for me sometimes to accept. And rest and sleep. I love rest and sleep for two reasons. Number one, it gives me a chance to shut my mind off while I'm in analysis mode. Because again, I told you I'm kind of always thinking about stuff. And so when I'm sleeping, I can escape from that a little bit. I can just kind of go into thinking about something else. Um, but the other reason why I love rest and sleep is going to be a little bit spiritual, but my loved ones tend to come to me in my dreams. Sometimes when I'm a little stressed about something or I'm a little worried about something, they really kind of come to me, they come and soothe me, they come and give me guidance. And those dreams manifest in a lot of different ways. It's interesting how sometimes they manifest. They bring me ideas. Sometimes my loved ones bring me ideas for things. So for example, I wanted to start a clothing line, and the name of the clothing line came to me, and the purpose was in a dream. I was in the dream. I think I can remember I was doing a photo shoot in the dream, and it was my brand, and it was the title of it. And I think somebody asked me in the dream, like they came up and they said, "Hey, well, why is it called this?" And I said, "Oh, because it's this, and because it's that, and it's because it's this." And I woke up and I immediately wrote that stuff down because I was like, "Hey, this might manifest at some point." The title, the purpose, and the vision, honestly, of this podcast came to me in a dream. Now, the initial idea was the initial idea of a foursome that we started out with. If you've watched season one and season two, or season one and half of season two, um, was from somebody else. That did not come from me. The idea of all four of us getting together. Now that came from Brandon, our previous one of our previous co-hosts. But the dream that I had about doing a podcast, and the name of the podcast, and the purpose of the podcast, and actually the fact that it was just me and Jeff, was all a part of that dream that I had. And again, we've shared that I've told Jeff about it, and I was like, "Hey, um, I just had a dream. We had a podcast, and this is what it was called, and this is what we did, etc." So to see that kind of come to fruition is actually really dope. So my passion for those three things, music, community, and rest and sleep, help me stay creative. They help me stay balanced, and they help me stay connected to people that I really want to connect with. Real talk. I think that is what love is too. Now that I think about it, it's creative, or as Jeff says, bespoke between two parties. It's balanced, where one person may be deficient, the other or others can kind of fill the gap. And then it's about connectivity or connection. So, like two entities, whether they're romantic or platonic or familial, or even just between a person and their soul, like those two entities coming together and functioning in tandem. So, once you experience like love like that, it's a beautiful thing. So, when I'm not teaching classes or grading work or advising my undergraduate chapter of my fraternity, I like to completely veg out. And what that means is I like to just watch TV where I don't have to think. I reach out to people I haven't spoken to in a while. I work on creative things for the podcast, or sometimes I just listen to music and go on dates with my thoughts. This really does recharge me, and it kind of keeps me inspired because I'm taking those times. We always talk about work-life balance. And so I really believe in that. And I'm like, hey, I need to take a break. I need to just relax. I don't want to do anything. If I want to do some research, then I want to do it on my own time, not because I have to. But I will say that I'm a pretty routine type of dude. Outside of my work, I work out with my trainer 3 times a week, and I usually will do a fourth day on my own. I read different types of books. So I actually am a part of a book club at my college. So I'm getting exposed, honestly, to a lot more books that I haven't read yet. And as I mentioned, I love listening to music. Again, I keep telling y'all I love music. I'm an R&B and a hip hop head though. So I love gospel as well. That's my next favorite genre after those two. But those things again keep me grounded, and being grounded is definitely who I am as an earth sign. All right. And if you haven't noticed in the podcast, I do have my sign, my zodiac sign back here on the back, because I am proud of being an earth sign. I'm also proud of being a Virgo. One of my guilty pleasures though, and I'm not too ashamed to admit this, but I'm gonna let y'all know one of my guilty pleasures is watching RuPaul's Drag Race. So I watch the show, I laugh at the show, and that's about as far as it goes. Like I still have yet to go to any sort of like drag event, and I don't research the queens in an effort to kind of get to know everything about them. And I definitely don't contribute to the toxic fandom that follows the show that we hear about a lot. If you watch the show, the fans sometimes are way too much. They are teen too much. However, though, I am glued to the TV or watching it on replay the next morning after it airs. And I do watch a lot of the international franchises too. Now, not all of them, but there are some that I make sure that I follow, especially some of the ones that are the English speaking franchises. I definitely follow those. So when I'm alone, I do value that time. And I'm alone most of the time, and I really am pretty fine with it. Being around others is great, but y'all know it can be draining to be around people like all the time. You know what I mean? It's having to engage with issues and their problems can sometimes just be vexing to your spirit. And I do love to be around small, intimate groups, though. So I say all the time that I'm more of an exclusive type of dude versus an inclusive one. Now, I don't have FOMO or fear of missing out. I don't need to be around a group of people at a party or a club or an event. I'm fine with like one or a couple of friends coming over and we catch up, watch TV, go out to a not loud restaurant, see a movie, brunch, etc. Or I can do those things myself and be like Mary J. Blige and be doing just fine. All right. I would like to hang or travel more with friends and family in other parts of the country and the world, but a lot of times finances kind of and time really restrict me from doing that. And hopefully in the future I can rectify that. So stay tuned. So now that I've gotten to this point, I kind of want to answer some questions that I always get and some questions that people tend to ask me all the time. So I wanted to do it in the space of the podcast so that people who want to watch this and replay it back and want to get to know me a little bit more can do that. So one of the questions that I always get is tell us or tell me about the colored auras that you see around people. All right. So years ago, I noticed that people that I came in contact with or were in the presence of had like this color surrounding them. So later in life, I kind of put it together and I learned what that color felt like. And so now sometimes I can feel the aura through the phone. Like I can feel what it feels like through the phone. So the colors related to how I needed to move or how open I could be with somebody that I came in contact with. So here are the colors. So there are three main colors. There's three main colors here and two subcolors. So the first color is blue. Blue is my favorite color. And in more recent years, black has kind of crept up and it's running neck and neck with blue. So you see, I've got on a black shirt here and I've got a black hat on. I just decided to throw some red on just to so that it wasn't just completely washed out or just completely, black. But when I see or I feel blue around someone, it means that they are cool. I can relax around them. I can tell them things without it like coming back to bite me in the ass. And I don't really have to hide who I am around them. I can just kind of relax and go, all right, this is a person that I'm cool with. I can tell them pretty much anything. And I know it's not going to go anywhere, or I know somebody's not going to come to me later and say, well, I was talking to so-and-so and they told me about. So that's blue. So next is green. When I see or I feel green around someone, it means that I can be open to an extent with them. With greens, I don't want to get too close, but it's okay to let them in just a little bit. I usually see green around people like coworkers, people I engage with that perform services for me, etc. And what I've learned is I can let these people kind of get to know me a little bit, but I'm normally not surprised if they just kind of switch up their demeanor or they switch up how they move. I'm not surprised by that. So then of the three main colors, the final color is yellow. And so when I see or feel yellow around someone, it means caution. So I'm very careful with how I move around those people because they don't mesh with my spirit. There's something about them that doesn't mesh with my spirit. Now, I'm not saying that those people are bad people at all or that they have ulterior motives. I'm just saying that they may not be good for me and they may not be good for my peace. So I try not to let people who are yellows, who I see that yellow aura around, I try not to let them get to know me at all. I just really try to keep my distance because not going to do it. So again, two subcolors between blue and green is aptly blue green. So blue greens are people who are mostly cool, but sometimes I do kind of watch how much information that I give them and how open I am with them about various things. And then between green and yellow is yellow green. And these are people that I can work with and I kind of share very surface level stuff with them. But there's still a level of caution that I have with them that I'm very kind of I'll have a conversation with you. I'm not going to be not cordial to you. I'm going to speak. I'm not going to, roll my eyes if I really did that. I'm not going to do any of those things, but I'm just going to be very, very cautious of you. So Those are yellow greens. So I kind of hope that cleared up all of the auras. So I hope if you all meet me in person or you hit me up in, on social media or with the in the after this episode airs and you comment, I don't see other colors. I just see those five colors. Those five colors. I don't see anything more than that. So don't ask me if I see red around somebody or if I see black around somebody. Okay. I don't see those colors. So next question, what's something people always get wrong about you? And real talk, there's not a lot that people get wrong about me if they take the time to get to know me. So I'm an earth sign. I told you that. I'm specifically a Virgo. And Virgos really don't vary from the script too much. What you see is what you get. So not really anything people get wrong about me. So that was an easy one. How do you stay confident in who you are? So, really, I can't say that I'm as confident as I would like to be. I definitely try to appear that way on the outside. Um, I am confident in a few things, though. I'm confident in how I show up for others. I'm confident in what I can do, like my abilities, but I can't say that I'm as confident in how others view me. And honestly, I don't know if that's a thing that I need to be concerned about, but sometimes I do. I worry about that because it's based on their perception. But I still do think about it sometimes. What's been the hardest lesson you've had to learn? So, the hardest lesson I've had to learn is that people, no matter how old we are and how much education we have, what our thought processes are, all of that, our thought processes, our perception, and our sense of logic can be completely different. So I used to think, though, honestly, at a certain age, that even though people may not agree with you on certain things, that they would honestly be able to see the logic in how you move or why you did something that you did. But what I've learned is that people are gonna people. And sometimes to try to explain a way of thinking or a line of reasoning to someone who's not self aware or even communicative really is a waste of time. And I have learned that the hard way for real. Walking away from those people can be tough though, because again, some of these people are not bad people. They're really good people, but they're just not good for you, like at all. So it's tough. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? Well, I would be a lawyer right now. I probably would not have a podcast because I would probably be somewhere trying to get somebody out of jail or somewhere worried about a deposition, stuff like that. But all I wanted to do from the eighth grade through junior year of college was be a lawyer. That's all I wanted to do. I was going to law school and all of the things, but during my junior year of college, I had a professor tell our class a story about the LSAT, which is the test that you have to take to get into law school, and the bar exam, really, which certifies you to practice law in any respective state. But after he finished telling the story, and honestly, y'all, I can't tell you what the hell the story was. I don't remember any of it. So I just know that after he finished telling that story, I was like, nah, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I'm good on this. So then I shifted gears to technical writing. And once that really didn't pan out, I went back to school and I started teaching. I went to grad school and I became a TA. But at the school that I graduated from with my master's, which is also in North Carolina, I I started teaching as a TA, and I enjoyed it so much that I just haven't looked back. And I know y'all heard that little bit of country twang that just came out a few minutes ago. That's what I was thinking about in my mind. So, what's next for you personally or creatively? So, what's next? I hope that I can travel more and visit those people that I spoke about. Those of you who are out of the country, we've talked about trying to link up and how I want to come and visit and all that stuff. So you know who you are. I would like for Jeff and I to grow this podcast more. I'm enjoying the ride of this. I really do enjoy this. I enjoy now that I've gotten past the initial, oh my God, I look like shit on camera, or I hate the sound of my voice. Now that I've gotten past that a little bit more, I'm like, okay, this is kind of dope. I like this. So I want us to grow more. And ultimately, I mean, I want to settle down with someone whom I can create through, I can connect to, and I can maintain balance with. So you see how I did a little call back there to creation, connection, and balance and what love is? See what I did? Clever, right? All right. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thank y'all for listening. And I hope that through all of this long-winded shit that I just gave you, that you got to know me on a deeper level. So please don't be afraid to hit me up, DM me. Let's have some conversations. I'm not a scary person. I definitely will respond if you hit me up. So until next time, Happy New Year. And I can't wait to see you all in the comments. Make sure you subscribe and share the show because the algorithm only listens when you all make noise.
Follow us on social media, tap in with the community, and keep the conversation going.
We look forward to seeing you and hearing from you.
Peace.